Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the LogiCast featuring the Logical Gamers crew. I am Gunnar Eos. I'll be kicking off this discussion. I am here with Blanca Kong, Mr. Esoteric, and Hado Wolf. So, topic for our tonight's episode is microtransactions. Thoughts, comments, concerns. They are prevalent in most modern games in 2020 and have been around for a good while now. Some people love them, some people hate them. Some say they're a blight on the gaming industry, they've killed games. There's some evidence to point that way, there's some evidence to point the other way. I have my own feelings on it. I think this topic is going to be a good one. We've all been gaming since gaming with cartridges, and we've all been gaming since the platform to play on was CRTVs. So we've been around the block, so to speak, in the gaming sphere. So we've seen the evolution of pick up this Mario cartridge. This is the game, and we've seen that evolve from that till here's 20 different versions of Assassin's Creed with microtransactions to boost your EXP and your money gain. So exactly. See, look, this is gonna be a good one. All right. So I've talked enough. I've kicked it off. So microtransactions. How do we feel about them?
Who's going first?
Anybody? The floor's open.
Oh, I'll go first. I'll go first. So, some people might hate me after this podcast from some of my opinions, but I'm going to be honest. So, microtransactions, while I understand why people don't like them, I think they're necessary for today's market because making games today or even 5 years ago compared to 20 years ago is very different and I think more demanding and more taxing on budgets because the expectations of the consumer base, us, is higher. People, and it's especially with like normies, with like just regular like casual players, people who don't have posters and toys in the background like I do. People who just play games casually, they have a certain expectation. So when they're first introduced to gaming, depending on the generation, so let's say somebody who grew up in the PS4 era, that bar is set. So if you show them like a PS3 game or a PS2 game, they're gonna look at it and go, "Oh, what is that?" Right? Whereas for us, like we grew up in I mean, all of us, but I grew up with Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, right? Into PlayStation, Dreamcast, etc. So for me, it's easier to, and I went to school for game design and I did study it to a degree, so I understand like how much work goes into even just trying to make a simple game. It can be a daunting task. So microtransactions suck in a lot of ways, and I think there's gradations. Some companies do it well or acceptable, and other companies I think take advantage of that model. But I think overall it has to exist in order for gaming to be as accessible as it is today. Throw your stones. I don't care.
I guess I'm gonna go up next. Um, I'm kind of on the fence about it. I feel like
Yeah.
with microtransactions, it's dependent upon how they incorporate them. You know, I feel like these transactions should only be used for things that are additions to the game, such as costumes or like special types of weapons that's not needed for the game. However, when it comes to like, oh, for example, Killer Instinct, when they only came out with two characters for the Xbox 360, and then you had to pay for the rest as you went along, I didn't really like that because they limited you as to like which characters you can use. They did incorporate demos for some characters, but you had to catch those demos within a certain time. So I feel like that's not the best way to go about using microtransaction. Or another one would be those sports games where you have to pay for points just to elevate your character. And yes, those are optional, but it's like I think it's a sleazeball way to kind of make money when it comes to those type of and those type of transactions. So I'm I'm on the fence about it because I did go to school as well with Kong in
No, you
terms of
didn't.
yes, I
I'm
did.
kidding. Yes, he
Um
was there. He was there.
so, we both, as he stated, went with game design. So we do understand the ins and outs and how, as he said, taxing it is to create a game. Hell, that was our project, and we only rendered like two characters. We didn't even get to the map or whatever. Um, so with that being said, I understand why um, companies would do it. Not to mention they also have deadlines as well. And the big wigs, they don't care about, oh, how much it takes to, or how long it takes to create a game. All they care about is game needs to be created by deadline. So I can understand why companies will give you games in installments, but when it comes to other ways that they go about doing it, it's pretty, for lack of a better term, shitty.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I used to be hardline against microtransactions. My stance has softened over the years, but I think it's like Esoteric said. It's kind of how it's implemented in certain games. For these free to play games, not your gotcha style cell phone type games. Those, to me, there's maybe one in a billion that are fair, and the rest are predatory as fuck. I'm talking about console games and PC games, aka mainline games.
Can you give us
If
some examples of like what determines predatory in your opinion?
so, okay, a lot of people, the game's been around for a while. League of Legends, mobile game, PC. It's I have never felt. I've been playing League since like 2012. I've never felt pressured to buy a character at any point in the game, at any point in time. The game's free to play. You download it, you make an account, you're in the game. You're provided with a base amount of characters to cover every role because those who know, MOBAs have different roles: support, jungle, ADC, top, mid. They give you champions that have been around since the game has been out as a basically you have every role filled. Then other champions you buy with real currency or in-game currency. You can earn that in-game currency simply by playing. So if you play a healthy amount, like I have over the years, I have enough to buy any new champion that comes out when I want. I don't have to spend a dime. The only time I ever spend money is on skins, which have no impact on the game. They just look nice and make me feel good. And that's what I spend my money on. Now, granted, it did take a while for me to build that currency, and you may be forced to buy a champion during that time. But once you own that champion, you own it. You can play it. That champion will never go away. It won't. They'll get reworked and changed, but they'll never disappear. So the game is free to play. It has no zero barrier to entry monetization wise. So that's how they make their money. And it's up to the individual if they want to buy those skins or those pretty icons or whatever. I've seen people play for years, never spent a dime on the game, but they've got enjoyment out of it. Now you have games on the flip side. I mentioned it in the start of the episode. Ubisoft with Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs, the infamous for Assassin's Creed Origins, not Origins, the one set place in Greece, um,
Odyssey?
Odyssey, the infamous money and experience boosters that you can buy. What those companies do in to boost their microtransactions, that that's shady because they design the game from the ground up to be grinding. So as Blanca Kong mentioned, the normies, they're just playing the game. They're not doing side quests. They're not going on adventures in secret tombs. They're just playing the story. And they get level blocked because the missions have level requirements. So what do? I don't have time. I just want to beat the game. I'm enjoying the story. They might be pushed towards buying those microtransactions because it'll give them the EXP boost to level up a bit to get them past that mission. So to sum things up, it's all about how the game is designed. If it's a single player game, why do I have microtransactions in it? There shouldn't be any. Just make things unlockable, and if you want to charge me a microtransaction, do games like Ghost of Tsushima is having a whole new DLC story coming out, or it is out, or will be out very soon. That's content that wasn't in the base game. The base game by itself is full to the brim with stuff to do. That's just icing on the cake. That's just like, oh snap, that's a reason for me to go back to this world and play some new content and get some new stories. So there's a difference between milking your consumer base with these predatory microtransactions, like a lot of these AAA games do, and basically just providing a game and you input in terms of how much you're willing to spend. That's your input. That's based on you. So I don't hate them. I just think how they're implemented in games varies greatly between these corporations.
Wolf,
Mm.
what do you think? There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah. I agree with pretty much what everybody else says. Well, I do dislike microtransactions because I'm more of a traditional gamer. I feel deal with it the way it is. You know, if this is how the game, if this is what the game is, this is what the game is. Close some balls and play the game. That's me personally.
Can you
However,
elaborate on that? What do you mean grow balls? Like,
so a lot of people microtransactions is there, or some games use microtransactions to make the gameplay easier for the player.
mm-hmm.
I don't like microtransactions for that reason. If that's what the microtransaction is for that game, is if it's for things like how as Esoteric mentioned earlier with Killer Instincts, and even Dead or Alive did it, where the game is free, but you had to pay for the characters individually. That to me is really shitty, in my opinion, personally. Um, I have to play to pay with a character that I like or have been playing with that, like in Dead or Alive, that I've been playing with for so long. Now you're. I mean, yes, okay. You can look at it in the sense of, well, if you don't play with 10 out of the 20 people, then you kind of saved yourself, roughly what, $30, because that's only half the game you play. But at the same time, as someone who likes fighting games, you never know when your mindset is going to change. You never know when a character is going to intrigue you to want to jump to that character. So
Right.
I'll pay that $60 for the whole cast, even if I never used one or two of them. But me, as a fighting game enthusiast, I will go through the whole cast and I will take them to the lab, you know, little by little by little to find what each of them are about, even if I never use them, competitively, of course. But then when it comes down to like saying, Gunnar mentioned Assassin's Creed Roadblock, it's like, so you put the player in a situation where they can spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours grinding, which casual players aren't going to do, or they can spend the money to pay for their level to increase or pay for the item for the EXP for them to get past it. But my thing is, when I played video games, like I remember playing video games where, for instance, Mega Man, where you had to jump on the platform in a specific way at a specific time when the enemy passes or just as the enemy turns around in order for you to survive that one little jump in the whole game. Like that to me is just like, when I think about difficulty and when I think about like the grind that someone can put in to their video game or into their experience in the video game, um I feel like, just play the game. Like this is what the creators put out. Just play it this way. Like there's no reason to need to pay for an enhancement. But I do understand that it is necessary in today's market. So like microtransactions should be implemented to enhance the experience, but not to affect the experience. So costumes, weapons, DLC, stuff like that, I'm okay with. But when it comes to like, oh, I'm going to pay my way for the EXP so that I can get past this point instead of actually grinding, you don't really teach the player anything. You're not doing anything well for the player except taking their money. So for me, that's just not cool. That's how I feel, but I do understand that it is completely necessary in today's market. Um, let's take League of Legends, like Gunnar said earlier, where he's been playing it for 10 years now. So in the 10 years he's been playing it, he's only ever spent money on costumes, which is great. That to me is where microtransactions succeed in, because they know that, okay, well, he's a sucker for for shiny things, but it doesn't exactly affect the character itself. Then you have some people who complain about Pokemon Unite, where they complain that microtransactions is used to enhance the items that you can equip your champion with, which is game changing. So that right there will kill the experience for others. You understand? That's where it becomes like in a gray area. It's not necessarily like microtransactions isn't necessarily bad, it's not necessarily good. It's just like that gray area, and really what the player is willing to do. But at the same time, companies who set it up so where it's like spending the money is the most logical sense, that's where it's just like I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
I'm more
Yeah.
I'm very more I'm more against it than I am for it. But even then, so microtransactions. I mean, I played Street Fighter for so long, and I have all the costumes for you. And trust and believe, every time I equip one of those costumes for him, I enjoyed the game that much more because I'm using my favorite character or my main character, in a costume or in a different look than what was originally given to him. So that enhanced my experience playing as the character Ryu. Now, I know Gunna said that he's going to exclude gotcha games, but gotcha games are now moving over to consoles, such as Gaijin Impact,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Genshin Impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Genshin Impact. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I should call it Crap Impact, but I'll be insulting a lot of people.
Hot
Uh,
take.
No, you're
so
insulting the game, not the people who play it.
yeah, that's true. I'm not insulting the people who play it. I just feel like the game is one of those predatory games where the game doesn't give you any kind of content. The last time I played it, there was no content whatsoever to it. All they did was they just kept releasing these very anime pretty people that people spent money on top of money on top of money just to have. So you spent $100 to get this really pretty fire zombie chick, but what content are you using her in? Like that to me is just it's a bad, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and it just makes me really annoyed that this is where gaming has gone, where I appreciate gaming in the past, and that's why I say, just deal with the game the way it is. But because games in the past, like for instance, let's take a personal favorite of mine, Prince of Persia, where Prince of Persia, the original one, let's not talk about the last two or three or four, the original Prince of Persia,
We're
or the Prince
talking
of
Sands of
the one
Time
on
or the
Sands of
original
Time, not the
Okay.
original Sands of Time on the GameCube, the PS2, and the Xbox.
Cool.
Um, in that game, if you ran out of sand, you ran out of sand, and no matter how much you reverse time for the little sand you have, if reversing wasn't enough to get you out of your situation, you had to deal with that situation the way it was. And I feel like if Sands of Time was to be recreated, or if a game like Sands of Time was to come out in today's market, it would be, you can pay 99 cents to get enough sand in your inventory to get out of your situation, or you can just get frustrated with the same game over screen over and over and over again. You know, but that same game over screen that I was getting when I played it on the GameCube made me a better player, because at that point, I now sat up in my chair or my bed or wherever I was comfortable playing, and I said, I cannot afford to lose. I need to get better. I focused more in the game. My reflexes got better. My understanding of the character, my understanding of my resources, my understanding of the enemies got better. Like, I'm not just paying to get by. To me, it that's where I say it doesn't really do much for the community, but I can also understand that it does a lot more for the business aspect of video games, and I can't knock them for it.
No,
Everybody got to eat.
they
Yeah.
sell. They sell.
Yeah, everybody got to eat, so I can't knock them for it. They got to feed their, their families and themselves. So I get it, but it's just, yeah.
Mm. It's funny you mentioned Prince of Persia because that happened in another game that had a long history that started off on the PlayStation 2. The latest Devil May Cry 5. If you guys don't
Hmm.
know, it had the ability for you to buy red orbs.
Oh,
You
I
could
think I
I
think they
did
had
not
that
know that.
for they had that for Devil May Cry 4 as well.
They had it for 4, but it
Yeah.
was for like the game of the year or the port, not the
Okay.
OG. Like
Yeah.
the straight up PS3
Hmm.
DMC4 didn't have that, but DMC5 had that. And I'm like, so I'm like on just piggybacking off of Wolf's point. It to me it diminishes the integrity of the game because in Devil May Cry throughout 1, 2, 3, 4, and nobody talks about DMC. Um, when it came to red orbs, that was a limited currency. So you had to take a look at your weapons. Like, are these my favorite weapons? Do I want to get air hike now? Do I want to wait? Do I want to get this move now? Okay, I gotta get that S score so I can get that bonus, get that red orb bonus. So I gotta try really hard to get that S score. I can't get an A or a B, or I'm gonna have to wait 2 more missions to get my upgrade. Now it's just like, all right, fuck this. I want to get everything. Let me just get my credit card out, buy $100 worth of red orbs, and now I've unlocked all the moves. Like, that doesn't mean you know the weapons any better. That doesn't mean you know the combat any better. You just bought everything. And to me, grinding those red orbs and picking those specific moves for those specific weapons, yeah, that made you a better player at DMC. It it drove some people to get that S rank so they can get that red orb bonus. But now you don't have to. But then the other more, I guess, logical side of me looks at it's like, well, it's a single player game. I refuse to play like that. The game gives you enough red orbs to play the normal way, so I can't get too upset if the guy in Minneapolis wants to drop his credit card and buy $100 worth of red orbs. So
Why are
it's
you
like
laughing? What's wrong? What's so funny about Minneapolis?
he
Because
doesn't
he
like
he
movies.
just he just randomly picked
He
a
just
place.
randomly picked a state like
that's
Minneapolis.
what
He
made it
didn't say
funny.
he didn't say some other guy in the world or in America or in Canada. He said Minneapolis. Like,
Hey, I'm trying to represent all the people in Minneapolis. They know what I'm talking about.
But
But
um
yeah, so I agree. It to me in some aspects it trivializes certain games that it feels shoehorned in because that shit didn't need to be in DMC5. It really didn't. But yeah, go ahead, go ahead. You wanted to say something.
now I was just gonna say, kind of digressing off the topic with Wolf and your point, Gunner. I'm starting to think that there are just two types of gamers. Like they get a sense of fulfillment out of different things. Us, we get the fulfillment out of overcoming the obstacle, while the other types of gamers, I feel like they're just looking more for simulation. You know what I'm saying? They're just looking for, oh, I'm this character, I'm this avatar. I just want to go from point A to point B. Oh shit, this thing is taking me too long to go through the story. Let me throw in a couple of bucks just to get past this. Like, they're not looking for the type of fulfillment we're looking for, where this monster is in our way, we want to take it out, and we're learning from the game. I think we're just looking for different forms of entertainment, They're looking for an interactive story where we're looking for like progression, trying to get better and solving puzzles, so to speak, like interactive puzzles. Um, but yeah, I definitely get your point, and I do believe that we're all in agreement in terms of like we understand why um these transactions are implemented, but they can be used in a much better way. For one of the biggest ones that annoyed the hell out of me was Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Those characters was locked behind a disc. They were already on the freaking disc. Why are we paying for characters that were already in the game? They just were locked behind a code and they made us pay for it. That was cheesy as hell.
Because you needed to buy Super Street Fighter Cross Tekken. That's why you needed to buy that. Like, that's what they needed. I mean, come on, we bought Street Fighter 4 times.
Yeah,
So
but they weren't, well, to my knowledge, because I don't know. I'm just gonna be honest. With those games, I believe those characters were put on that new disc, or they were added once you downloaded the content for it. I'm not sure if it was on the Manila disc, but with Street Fighter Cross Tekken, somebody broke the code and those characters was on the disc. I'm like, that's a slap to the face. You guys could have at least taken the time and excluded them from that disc, especially in this age because people are hacking everything. So for you to take these characters, lock them behind a disc, and then say, "Hey, we want y'all to pay for this," that's a slap in the face to your audience. I mean, that's just my opinion. You know.
well, that's a failed game, so we don't talk about that. Um,
That's not around anymore.
That's not the point. It for its
that's what
time,
never
I
came around.
actually liked the roster and the game itself. It's just unfortunate that they put in certain things that made the game suck, which was
Well,
also microtransactions as well, because those gems made no sense.
the one experience that I've had with microtransactions as of recently is, for instance, like we're playing Pokemon Unite at this point, and I'm not gonna lie, when I bought the battle pass for the game, it gave me like 4,000 or 5,000 tickets or whatever, that those tickets you use and you trade them in for the item upgrades. Um, and I was able to increase 3 or 4 items in my inventory that made I still don't see a difference because I'm new to the MOBA scene, so I'm still learning a lot of tactics that, like, I can easily get outplayed by someone with a lower leveled champion than me. Um, that's how much learning of the game I still have to do. So, but because I did pay for it, I'm able to then increase my items levels to a point where it will affect my character in a sense of where I can see why these items are placed upon it, or why, or how effective these items truly are. Um, would I say that it's pay to win? No, I don't believe it's pay to win because I don't win, regardless. Um, but it's but if it was pay to win, I'd be winning, right? Okay. So no, I don't win. But what it did do was take away the grind that I would have to have done to get these items to the proper level for me to then use it. Now, what I cheated myself of was the practice of constantly playing the game, constantly understanding the game, because in my mindset, I'm grinding to level up these items. So without me knowing, I'm getting better naturally. I would have been getting better naturally. I would have been understanding naturally. I would have been put in way more scenarios than I put myself in recently, just because if I chose not to buy the battle pass. I would have to play a lot more games, which means the champions that I use, I would have understand them better. I would have seen more situations, just because I'm simply trying to get the muscle band from level 10 to level 20. But no, instead I dropped what, $20, and there you go. Now I have the muscle band at level 20, which of course there's more levels to it. But the point is that I took away hours of gameplay. I took away hours of practice. I took
So
away
here,
hours
so
of
here's the question:
experience.
because when you started talking about this stuff in this podcast, this particular episode, you were very adamant with play the fucking game.
Yeah, I
And
was.
in Pokemon Unite, you bought the battle pass, gave you a bunch of tickets and coins or whatever, and you've admitted that in doing so, you've cheated yourself out of 10 hours of fight experience, learning matchups, learning your champion, learning routes, learning new strategies, whatever. So where does that leave you, right? Like, what does that mean?
What do you mean?
Do you regret it?
Like, of course I do. I do regret it because in the end of the day, now I have the item or certain items to a certain level, and it's really killed the game for me. Not to the point where I don't want to play anymore. Because as long as you guys are playing, as long as the people that I like to play with are playing, I'll have fun with the game. Because
Esoteric, we don't want you to play. So um,
I'm still gonna
you know,
play.
I'm kidding.
so so I'm still gonna play. But what I'm saying is that I feel like in the long run of things, much like what Esoteric said earlier, it's how we're gonna how are we going to absorb the experience that we're dealing with. Like some people would have bought the battle pass, they would have bought extra gems to max out these items right away because they feel like maxing out these items, they can focus on their champion and just go, just play, and they'll win. um which in my experience is, yeah, okay, so I did buy the battle pass, I did pump it in the resources into my items, and while I do see the effects of the items, I'm still not really winning any. I'm like, I don't win. If I play 10 matches, I'm not winning 9 of them, I'm not winning 8 of them, and I'm not winning 7 of them. So seven out of the 10 matches. So for me, it's not a pay to win factor, but I did pay to cut my grind down by so many hours that at this point it's just like, well, if I would have stopped playing today, then I'd stop playing today. It wouldn't matter to me. It wouldn't be like, damn, I put this much practice in. I don't kind of want to stop playing because I know this game. I'm good at this game. Now for me, it's like, well, I got the items. So if I stop playing, I stop playing is whatever.
And
Hmm.
You know,
it,
that doesn't. It's not good.
it's funny that you say that because I've always known you to be a grinder. Like in every game, you love to grind, especially RPGs. You love to grind. You love to max out stats. It's just I just find it like
Well, the reason why
shocking.
I did it, the reason why I did it was an experimental thing because
Mhm.
you guys know me. Like if we get into something competitive, I'm gonna learn the ins and outs of this competitive thing, like regardless of how long we stay in it.
Yeah.
Like you guys know that I do my research before I jump in anything, or
Right.
while I'm playing something, or while I'm interested in something. But doing my research, you come across a lot of people who voice their opinion of Pokemon Unite is pay to win, and it's trash, and it's this, it's that, and the third. So it starts to boil my curiosity. Like, okay, well, is it really pay to win? Is it?
I don't think so.
So
Yeah. I don't think
I
so
don't
neither.
I don't personally, I can tell you that it isn't pay to win
I have
because
the I have the shit stats to prove it.
I think
I
it's I think
got
it's
the
pay to
charts
expedite
to
your
prove
prep.
it.
That's what it is. I think it's pay
So
to prep faster.
you guys had a lot of interesting points, and I kind of want to touch on some of them before we kind of wrap things up. So, Esoteric, you mentioned Killer Instinct, and Wolf, you mentioned Dead or Alive,
Mhm.
and the business model of like having 1 to 2 characters available from the rip with a free download, and then having the option to buy characters individually or buying the entire game for retail price, which is $60, right? Or in Killer Instinct's case, I think it was a little less. I think it was like $30, right? Because it wasn't
It wasn't a full
game,
roster. No, it was like about maybe 8 characters.
something like that, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So, and you guys, well, I don't, I remember Esoteric saying he didn't really agree with that model because I think you did, you said it too, Wolf. Like you wanted the entire game,
Yeah, I would have
um,
preferred the entire game.
which is fair. But while I agree with your want of having the full game experience, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I encourage it. You know, you should buy the full game if you want to play the full game. But I think having the option, and I'm on the other side of the fence. I actually like the whole download the game for free. You get this character, and if you only ever want to play this one guy or this one girl character, pay the $5 and that's it. I loved it because we played Dead or Alive 5 years ago, and I downloaded my one character and I was good with that. I didn't need to play the other 15 characters. I could have, but whatever. Like
Well,
I like this one character, and that was fine. So the game for me was just $5. I was like, okay, that's a great fucking deal because I'm not the guy to play the game as much as maybe somebody like Esoteric or like Wolf, where I'm gonna learn every character. I'm gonna take all the characters to the lab. I'm good. I don't need to do that. So I think having that business model as an option is healthy because not that I'm a casual fighting game player in the sense that, you know, I just, I just play them just whatever. I've been playing fighting games for a long time. I'm just not good at them and I'm okay with that. But think of like normal people. When I say normal people, I mean people who aren't like us, who aren't considered hardcore gamers, who haven't been playing games since they were 3 or 4 years old, like a lot of us, right? People who just, oh, this game looks kind of cool. Let me check it out, right? This person isn't going to spend $60 to check out Dead or Alive 5 or Dead or Alive 6 or Killer Instinct. But if they have a free download option and they kind of like the game, they go, oh, okay, well, I'm interested in that character. There's an entry point there. It's not this like hard, like, if you want to play our game, you have to pay this amount of money. No, there's options. And I think that is really healthy to expand your business. Do you guys agree with that? Or do you?
I can agree with that in the aspect of, like, let's take Killer Instincts for example. Unlike Dead or Alive, Killer Instincts roster or character wise is not really something I'm a fan of per se. So when I played Killer Instincts on the 360, on I believe it was the 360 or the Xbox One. Was it the 360?
Xbox One. Xbox One.
Xbox
Xbox
One,
One,
right?
yeah.
Because it was a console my brother owned, not me. But when my brother bought it, he was more of a fan of he's more of a fan of the game than I was, but he slowly bought, the characters and stuff like that. The only character I would have been willing to spend money on was Saberwolf, and that was it. I would have been happy, personally. Whereas Dead or Alive, there is more characters in Dead or Alive that I do like.
Mhm.
So ultimately, buying 6 characters roughly, or 7 characters roughly for $5 would have netted me what, $35. But at that point, I would have already been invested into Dead or Alive. So I would have just given the extra $30 for the rest of the roster, anyways.
Right.
Um,
And that option exists, which
that option
I'm
did
gonna
exist.
segue into something else, but I'm gonna let you finish your
Yeah,
point, and I'm gonna let Esoteric respond.
yeah, that option was there. So I agree. With options, when you provide someone with options, they can weigh whatever decision they make. You make them feel like that was their decision, even if you know that you're going to win as the company, regardless, whether I give them $60 for the whole game or you give them $5 for one character. They know that in the end of the day, they won because what their business model is to make the money, and they made the money off of you. They made the money off of me.
Mhm.
So the only thing is that in our head, we believe we made the right choice for ourselves.
Yep.
So it makes perfect sense.
Esoteric, you have a rebuttal to what I just said?
Um, I can agree with the points that you're making. I think one of the reasons why I was on the fence about it as well is due to the fact that there's a bias there because we're accustomed to having fighting games with a full roster, and they just recently started implementing this business practice of having a certain amount of characters and choosing who you want to buy as their business. Um, like I do understand what you're saying, but my thing is this with certain games where they've already had a following. You know, they've already had prequels of this game. So for example, let's say you've been playing the game since Street Fighter 2 or whatnot, and then you know Capcom decides to have a business practice where they implement this same type of thing. You know which character you want to acquire because there's familiarity there. But
Mhm.
who's to say that they don't change your character completely? I play Chun, so you know they constantly always dipping and dabbling between changing her move sets and stuff like that. So I might get the Chun that I'm not happy with. So it might force me to try to play another character, and then that character probably doesn't have the move pool that I was looking forward to, giving me that familiarity of Street Fighter to begin with. So it kind of puts me in a rabbit hole of trying to choose a character or find a character that I feel would complement the playstyle that I like. You know, so it I can understand it working for a new game where there's just a new roster of characters you don't know who it is. Well, clearly it works because Killer Instinct was successful and so was Dead or Alive. But I just feel like I'd rather just get the full game because it allows me to explore and weigh my options as to who's good and who's not. Um, it's kind of like putting your hand in a raffle, seeing if you win a particular
I
character.
get that, and that's
So
a fair point. I mean, you're right because Chun Li from Street Fighter 2 to 3 was, was radically different, right? So, and even in between iterations of different Street Fighter 2s, there was major changes to certain characters. So I get that, but um I'll say this, and I'm not a part of this particular camp, but I've working at a game store for so long, I met all kinds of gamers, right? So I would get like a major fighting game would come out. I would do a big midnight launch or whatever, have a tournament at the store. I loved fighting game releases because they always generated the best crowds, and I always had like the best um, midnight
sportsmanship.
launch pre-release experiences. So whenever there's a new fighting game, I was on. I was like, okay, we got to do a tournament and whatever. So I loved it. But I will get customers who bought the game, who were super excited, who competed in the tournament, who had a great time, who were really hyped for the game, come back in 2 days and be like, yeah, I'm trading this game in. I'm done with it. I beat it already. I beat it. Right. Because there was like a lackluster story mode and the online play maybe wasn't optimal, or maybe they just were getting their butt kicked and they hated it. So they stopped playing. Right. That person paid $60 for this game and they got maybe 10 hours of gameplay out of it. Right. So that person feels like, damn, like I spent $60 on this game and I don't like it. I hate it. I beat what the game was. I beat the game. For me, fighting games are you can't beat a fighting game like you could beat a single player game. There is no finality to that kind of genre of gaming. This is a game. It's like chess. It's like saying I beat chess. You can't beat chess. Chess is forever. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that's how I look at it. Some people might disagree, and that's fine. But these people felt cheated. Now, if there was an option to download the game or get like a disc, right, with content locked, and be like, hey, I can sell you the disc for $5, and then you got to go online, register, pick your character, and you only pay $5 for the disc. That's a better investment because it's like, well, I don't have to invest as much. It's a low risk investment, right? And if I do like the game and I want to take it seriously and play it every day and get good and play in tournaments like online or in person or whatever, I can pay the $60 and then start doing my homework, start taking characters to the lab and start being better, right? You have that option to try. It's like going into a food court and being able to try the food, try samples before you actually sit down and order something. So I'm okay with that system existing because it gives people options of entry so that they don't feel like cheated at the end. And the segue, and you can respond to this right after I'm done. The segue is Genshin Impact in gotcha games. That shit is predatory, in my opinion, because they get you with oh, this game is clean looking. It's a beautiful looking game. It's got great map design. It's got a pretty decent combat engine, pretty fleshed out characters. Like the game has a lot to offer, but that's on the surface level. When you get deeper, there isn't a lot to do in the game. And I played the game for probably hundreds of hours because I played it from launch up until like January. I stopped playing because I felt like, well, fuck, like they keep piecemealing the progression points of the game. I'm doing it, but it's like, oh, God, like even if I get super strong, which I did, I leveled one character to the max, right? What's the point? My character's super strong. Who am I killing? Like, there's nothing here to kill. Yeah, there's the what is it? The Nexus, like the floor challenges or whatever. That's the hardest content in the game. I could go for that, but then the reward for that is, oh, here's some other items you could just get anywhere else. And it's like, well, what the fuck is the point? Right? So that game is predatory. That game is built on, you know, getting you to spend as much money as possible to get these like different characters. And you could spend anywhere from $5 to get a character to $5,000 to get a character because it's all RNG. That shit is crazy to me.
Yeah, there've been some horror stories
That's
about
Very
people
crazy.
spending.
predatory. And there's
Yeah.
stream evidence and video evidence of people blowing hundreds, thousands of dollars to get one character. That's insanity. That's fucking insane. That's more money than I would spend on games in half a decade.
It's
right?
gambling.
It's gambling, but the difference with gambling is if you go to Vegas or Atlantic City or whatever, and you put down, your life savings on this blackjack bet, if you win, you fucking win, bro. You're leaving
Yeah.
there with way more money than you came in with. But in Genshin Impact, you don't win anything.
That's the thing, is that when you gamble, when you go to a casino and you gamble, the resources you're spending at that casino is to stack on resources that you would be winning back. So the same money you're spending is the same money you're getting back. So say I go to a casino with $500 and I walk out with $50,000. You know what I just did? I just turned $500 into a house. That's what I just did.
Uh-huh.
Well, not in the
Five,
current market.
not in the current market. No, not right now. Not right now. Unless you're willing to overbuy a house or buy an overpriced house. Um, but taking $500 and you put it in Genshin Impact, all you did was make Korea happy. That's all you freaking did. You just made the Korean
You paid for
company
somebody else's house.
exactly. You know, like you got a character, and once the game shuts down or once they stop supporting the game, that's it. That's it.
It's
There's
gone.
no refund model. There's no, oh, we've been tracking you. You spent $2,000. Here's 1,200 back. Like there is no refund model to this. Here's 800 back.
There isn't, but clearly there's some, gamer satisfaction there, because me personally, I'm not putting no. Listen, I'm not gonna put hundreds of dollars to get a character. That's just
because
not me.
you're sensible
not-
and you're not in the crack.
You're
That's
not
the difference.
you're not the target audience for that. Like it's the same shit with sports games. Like
I was gonna touch on sports games. Go ahead, Gunner.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's arguably the same or arguably worse. And Kong brought up games are evolving and getting more expensive to create. Yeah, I hear that argument and I do believe it to some games. And then I look at FIFA, right?
Yeah, I
These
can't argue that.
dudes, these dudes are charging now $70 because we're in this new golden age of gaming where now games are so expensive they have to cost $70 now. So 65, 60, that's the way to pass. These dudes want on PS5 and Series X, they want to start not want to, they are charging you $70 for these games. And whatever the fuck latest FIFA is doesn't look much better from last year's. So where's that extra $10 going? To the two extra sweat particles on the guy's forehead?
The roster updates, which
And
could be implemented otherwise.
Right, and then you get the roster updates.
DLC.
Yeah, the guy who bought FIFA 19, who spent 50 grand on getting his perfect team, that shit don't mean anything in FIFA 20. It's
Yep.
all gone. There's no rebate. There's no reimbursement. There's no, oh, we noticed on your account you spent X money. Here's a equivalent exchange in our fake currency. No, they're like, I bitch, you paid your $70 one, your entry fee of $70. Now go spend 70,000 and get your new team. And they have people that do this. They
Dude,
take their paychecks, their
not to cut you off, I'm
go,
sorry,
go ahead,
but
yeah, yeah.
working at a game store, I couldn't believe it. Like I would see people come in, grown men, like guys you would see on the street, people you would see on the street, you would think, that's just a normal guy. But they're gamers, right? And they play FIFA or they play Madden or they play 2K or whatever. And they come in and they're like, hey man, what's up? What you need? Yeah, I need $500 in PlayStation currency. And I go, oh wow, okay, no problem. And I start ringing it up, right? And I always talk, make conversations with my clients, because that's what you do. So what you picking up, man? This, there's a lot of games you got here potentially, right? And he goes, oh no, I'm gonna use that for Madden points. I was goes, oh wow, the whole thing. What character are you trying to get? And not that I care, and not that I even know what characters are even available, but just to kind of strike the conversation. And he was like, yeah, I'm trying to get this player or whatever for my fantasy team. And I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah,
Wait,
no
wait,
problem.
wait,
Well,
wait,
good
wait.
luck.
Hold the
Good luck. I
phone.
hope you get it.
I, I'm
I'm
s-
holding the phone.
I'm sorry to cut you off because
Holding the phone.
it's been like maybe 6 years since I've played a Madden game. So now they have a gotcha system for characters.
Yeah, 100%.
For
Where have you
years.
been?
You've been out of the game for
Again,
too
I've
long.
only played Madden like 6 years ago. Hence my question. I did not know this.
No,
I don't know which game it started in. I can remember Mutt points, Madden Ultimate Team, and Foot points, FIFA Ultimate Team points, and VC
VC,
Virtual
virtual
Currency for
currency.
2K. It's
Yes.
really becoming a thing from memory. So I could be wrong. I'm gonna say in 2014. That's when I started to see it because I would be on conference calls with the bosses, and they're like, "Okay, guys, NBA 2K14 is coming out tonight. Do you make sure you have the VC barcodes on your registers? Make sure you're talking it up. Make sure you get attachment on every game. Blah blah blah. Business, business, business. Right?
Hmm.
So 2014 is when I remember it starting, or
Okay.
remember it being really gearing up, and every year would get the expectations would grow, right? And it's not like a thing where like we would just sell it and then hope to get like people came in asking for it. It wasn't a thing where it's like I'm convincing you to spend $10 on this. No, motherfuckers were coming in and like, hey, I need $50, I need $100, I need $500, I need $600 in just digital points. And I asked somebody once because I don't play sports games like that. I asked a customer once. I said, "Hey man, can I ask you a question?" He was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "So you play 2K, and I notice you always come in every week, right?" He spends like $100 a week on virtual currency. And I go, in the next 2K, because I noticed you got it pre-ordered. Is that transferable? And he was, oh no, I wish. And I looked at him, I'm like, oh my god. Like he
I
knows he's getting fucked and he's just okay with it. Wow. That's
that
crazy.
and
So
that
take it
is
away, Gunner. My bad. I
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
no, no,
derailed
no,
you.
no, no, no. That's it. That's the gist of it. That's literally the predatory side. That's the evil side, in my opinion, of microtransactions. And it's just like it's a super gray area. That's why my stance has changed from a couple years ago, where it's like, nope, if it's not all on the disc, if it's not all in the game, I want nothing to do with it. Now you have models like Kong was talking about, where it's download the game, it's a free download, you buy, you only play support. Cool. Here are the support characters. All right, I only want that character, and I'm gonna play this character for years until the next support comes out. And by then, I've been playing, so I have amassed free currency to just straight buy the new support.
Well, the thing is about these games now is that they're basically they for the microtransaction they're taking out game modes. Like I think Call of Duty was one of them where it's like, oh, you want zombies? Do you want the story?
Well,
Do you want
yeah,
online?
that's more that's more like on the not publisher, the console side, because Sony paid for that exclusivity. Sony
Well,
was like,
Okay,
I'll,
okay.
I'll give you X dollars. You give me, I forgot it was in the latest Call of Duty. You give me this mode on Sony platforms. So that's microtransactions on like a corporate level. That's like
Okay,
securing the exclusivity to draw people to get the PlayStation because they want to play that mode.
That's
But
buying turf.
yeah, that to me is kind of different.
okay.
But the whole VC, XC, whatever C we're talking about now to get your rainbow soccer player because you said you haven't been playing these games in a while,
Nope.
and but you've played gotcha games, so you know
Yeah.
about like SR, SSR, rainbow and shit. They literally have that in these new games. They have gold versions of the player. They have
Hmm.
rainbow versions of the player. They have, oh, you can pull this player who's passed away, but he was really good in the 60s. You can add him to your team, so you can pull people from the fucking past, like with some Avengers shit, and get people to play soccer or football, whatever
Oh
part
my
of the
god.
world you're in.
Wow.
Like, it's bad. It's really bad nowadays. And that's the predatory scumbag side.
But you see, you say that, and I agree with you. Trust me, I agree with you. But like we've seen this before, right? I've been playing, or not playing, but I've been collecting trading cards since I could remember. Pokemon. That whole booster card, like um business model is hey, little kid, do you want a shiny card? Well, if you want that shiny Charizard card, you could buy one of our booster packs and maybe you'll get it, or maybe you'll get a different shiny card.
right.
Right?
You could take it
I
even further
I
back.
get that. Hold on. Before we go, I understand Blanca Khan's point. I can attest this because me and him we played Yu-Gi-Oh religiously. So
Hmm.
I can attest that. But the difference in the trading card field or the trading card aspect of the gotcha quote unquote system is yes, if you did it traditionally, um, you are playing a gotcha system, right?
Hmm.
You are buying a booster pack at a chance of getting something that's valuable. Like I believe we did that um, when we were in high school. I did it for a specific monster card. I think I
Hmm.
bought a box of I bought 24 packs with money I saved up, and I didn't get the card I wanted in those 24 packs. I got a lot of other things that was good, but not what I wanted. Um,
For the Yu-Gi-Oh players out there, he's referring to Invasion of Chaos, and he was trying to pull Blackluster Soldier.
yeah,
Mm,
probably my
okay.
favorite Yu-Gi-Oh card, period. But um, here's where it changes. Here's where the dynamic changes. And I think some gotcha games kind of have that going with what they call a pity system. The thing is, with the card games, I could have still the $80 that I spent on that box for a few more dollars, I could have just bought the Blackluster Soldier.
Or you could have traded.
I mean, that's what I ended up doing. I ended up trading 30 crappy water monsters for
It was a hell of a
the
trade.
card
You
itself.
traded
Right,
that bullshit Yumi water deck for like,
right.
yeah, that was good.
For him at the time, and he was a value of what $130 or $150.
Something like that.
Um, but the trading card system, you could just buy the cards you want and completely negate buying booster cards.
True.
Much like in some gacha games, like the one that I currently play, Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, there's a pity system where if you do put in enough currency into the gacha system, they'll say, okay, you did this much. Here's what you can guaranteedly pick from this current banner, and you pick the weapon that you want to get.
Yeah.
Does it change the fact that you have to most likely spend money? No, it doesn't. Is the game changing for the worst currently? Yes. Most gacha games don't do that. Where it's like, okay, well, you spend this much currency, here's a guaranteed, here's something guaranteed that you were searching for on that banner. Most gacha games don't do that. I definitely don't think Genshin Impact does that. Um,
Something drastic
Not
has
when I was
changed.
playing.
Yeah.
right? Unless something dramatically changed. And at that point, it's still bullshit to me because you're pushing out beautiful anime characters with nothing to do. So I'm running around fighting the same goddamn goblins that I was fighting with the first character that the game gave me to begin with. So it's a pointless purchase. But yet, Genshin Impact is considered one of the best video games to come out recently. That's what people say.
I
So
mean, I enjoyed my time with the game. Like I can there are some pros there, but it is not the best game to come out in recent years. Like
that game is shit.
It didn't
Okay,
it
it's
didn't
shit.
grasp me. I didn't.
It's not. It's shit. It is
I
shit.
mean, yeah.
You if you play Genshin Impact, you just invested your time in searching through cow shit. You might as well go to a fucking farm and play in the cow poop. You might as well do that because that's exactly what you're doing on your PS4 or your Xbox or your cell phone. The game is crap.
Eh,
It's crap.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I
Like,
played it and I would rather play that than playing cow poop personally.
now
But
I'd rather
you
play
know,
cow poop than play that because cow poop, in the very least, freaking sterilizes the ground so that grass can grow. At least I get good grass from playing in fucking cow
s-
shit.
speaking of which, to just to piggyback off your trading card thing, the other difference is again, if I pulled that Charizard 23 years ago, right, and I had kept it in great condition this whole time, it's now worth thousands of dollars, right? If it's in great condition and it's graded and everything. You can't do that with digital content.
Well, they actually have like they have
Well,
people who sell their
CS,
The
yeah, like
scale is
CS:GO, Counter Strike,
lesser.
or whatever.
Yeah.
That exists, but it doesn't exist in every game. It doesn't
No,
exist in
no.
sports games. It doesn't exist in Genshin Impact. It doesn't exist in Gacha games, as far as I know. It doesn't exist in any other in a lot of
I think
modern
those.
multiplayer
uh,
games.
I think virtual. I think that's where it's most successful in like MMOs, where if you you're lucky enough to get a special weapon in a drop, if the weapon is able to be passed on to another player, that person could probably directly message you or get in contact with you on a personal level and say, hey, look, I'll give you 500 real dollars if you give me that weapon that's in the game right now. That's how bad I want this weapon. That's how long I've been searching for this weapon, or whatever their excuse is. For some people, is I just want the weapon because it looks pretty. Um, I think so. I think that market is better on the MMO side of video games,
Yeah, you
but
could do that in MMOs, but you can't do it on FIFA.
yeah, I don't think you can do that. I, don't- I yeah, like on FIFA or
You'd have to sell your entire
NBA or
account.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just pretty much
See,
it.
like, what you guys are talking about is what some free to play games do are direct purchases. So it's like hell, we all talk shit about it. Fortnite does that too. Like they have, I want this costume because it looks cool to me. Okay, it costs $30. Okay, it looks cool to me, and you just buy it. You don't have to go through a gotcha system and roll a bunch of other garbage you don't care about. You just direct purchase that cosmetic. And that type of microtransaction I don't have a problem with necessarily because it's usually attached to free games. There's usually no barrier to entry. There's no barrier to entry to Fortnite. We can all download that shit now and play it. There's no so direct purchases I don't have a problem with because I'm not playing the slots to get what I want. I just
Mhm.
buy this skin, this weapon, this whatever. I just purchase it outright. And the justification comes from you. It's I felt like I spent, the money I spent was justified. So, but the whole loot box gotcha thing, that's just predatory because you're sifting through cow shit. Funny enough, you're sifting through a bunch of bullshit to get the maybe 1% item that you've been searching for, and you'll have the guy who's like, "Oh, I just use free currency. Oh, look, I got the rainbow weapon. Oh my God, the rainbows are just falling from the sky." And then you have the guy who spends $1,000, and it's like, I have nothing, and I now had to take a loan out. So
I
like
I can give an example of wasting money. We know somebody in our circle who, when we played, at least my first experience with Gacha games,
Oh man, it ain't me. Whoever for
It,
viewers
it
watching,
damn
I'm just
sure
laughing
ain't
because
me
I know.
neither.
right? But Gunner knows who I'm talking about. But my first experience with the Gacha game, um, if because we had the thread where we would post each other's, our winnings, let's call it that, whenever we did do a poll. Um, and if someone else other than him got that winning character, you best to believe he starts swiping, swiper, swipe, 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 swipe. That's all he did until he finally got the character, just to match even,
Yeah.
with everybody else who was playing the game at the time. Um, a bit petty, but it is what it is. Um, yeah, so waste the money because now we don't play the game. And was it Square Enix? Is it Square Enix or is it Aniplex?
Aniplex.
Aniplex isn't gonna give him an email and say, "Hey, you spent this much money. Thank you for playing. You're an awesome customer. Hey, you know what? Here's a gift card of what you spent on this game.
They'll
Go
probably
go
throw.
spend it somewhere."
They'll probably
Hell,
throw all the characters he attempted to buy. It is like, oh, thanks for being a wonderful customer. Here's all the characters you actually wanted.
it get like nothing, nothing,
Oh my god.
nothing. You got nothing back from it. You
That,
got absolutely zero back from it. It's like it's that's just, oh my gosh.
So for
It's a
anybody who's
what?
interested in the lore, if you've been watching all of our episodes, this person that Wolf is currently speaking of is the same person that walked into the gathering hall with white Fatalis armor. So, you know, just to tie the pieces together, this is the same person. So,
But it's like it,
yeah.
it just it just doesn't make sense. And obviously that person is not the only one. There's plenty of people to do it.
Oh,
It's how the gacha games
and
make
they've
their
done it
money.
worse than that
Right.
particular person you're
And they've
speaking
done it
of.
they've
Yeah.
done it worse. Um and it's just a really, to me, it's a really bad way to go about spending your money, even if you have disposable income. I learned that now. I'm not gonna lie. In the beginning, I did not know that.
oh
In
yeah,
the
I was in the same
beginning, I
boat.
was right. I was one of those.
I just know the gotcha
Um,
community hates me. That's all I know.
Uh,
Or would
yeah,
hate
because
me.
you were one of those guys that would just like, oh, I just had free currency. I got every rainbow in the book, and then the guy spent,
Oh, that's right. I heard about that. Yeah, you guys
you
were
know,
bitching and complaining and screaming to the gods in the sky that Esoteric would spend no money, play the gotcha once, and get the character everybody wanted consistently.
oh, I bitched a lot.
yeah,
Oh
like,
my
Forgot
god.
about that. Forgot about that.
I bitched so much you would think I'm on my period. I bitched a lot.
and the
Like,
funny thing is, like that's the motive for some people. Like it's, it's FOMO, fear of missing out. Like you'll see all these people pull, like, oh man, I got the super rare anime girl on my first pull. Wow, I'm so lucky. And this guy's like, oh, that's some bullshit. So he's all right, $50 more. Doesn't get it. All right, $50 more. People are getting it. That means you can get her. And next thing you know, that 50 turned into 150, 1,500. Like, and meanwhile, the CEOs are just laughing all the way to the bank because that guy's not alone. So like that's the shitty. Those are the shitty microtransactions that I'm talking about.
So
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that we draw we draw the line in microtransactions when it comes to certain gotcha games, for example, like Genshin Impact, sports titles like FIFA and NBA 2K and Madden as another example. I think we have a some consensus on like other companies doing it, kind of like fighting games. The fighting game examples we gave, like Killer Instinct and Dead or Alive. That's kind of I'm okay with it, and I think you guys kind of like you're okay with it existing, but you prefer to like buy the full game, right? So I say the line in the sand is that that's the line between predatory and just giving people options and trying to make a little more money out of a particular product.
Yeah,
Is that fair to say?
when it comes to you're spending more time gambling than playing the game, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah, it's predatory versus versatility.
Wolf, do you agree? Because you haven't responded, so I don't know if
Oh,
you're
I'm sorry. Yeah,
clenching your fists to the sky at me right now. I have no idea.
no. I definitely agree. Like, I feel like good microtransactions enhances your experience in the game to an extent, but when it becomes to the point where it roadblocks your experience,
Yeah.
that's when it becomes bad.
That's fair. All right. Well, I've exhausted all of my points. We could talk about this for a lot longer, but I think we've kind of covered everything, or mostly everything.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
say so.
agreed.
Cool beans. Well, that was another episode in the chamber. If you guys enjoyed this content, please subscribe, check us out. We plan to release a podcast every week on different like gaming topics or nerd culture topics, movies, comic books, whatever. Like the video if you enjoyed it, dislike it if you didn't. If you feel like we missed something, comment, let us know. We'd like to hear your opinions. If you have ideas for future podcast topics, then tell us about it and we'll talk about it if it's interesting enough. Yeah, so Esoteric, where can they find us?
All right, so they can find us on Facebook, IG, Twitter, Logical Gamers. Look for the light bulb logo. Can't miss it. Dopest logo ever. Also, also I stream Monday, Wednesday, Fridays from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. EST. So definitely come through. Same thing, Logical Game TV, light bulb, and I'll hope to see you there.
All right, have a good night, guys.
Peace.
Later.
Take it easy.